Oh, yeah.
Oh, I'm just going to take my mask off just for our
Okay.
demo in case
by yourself
I'm not
there.
well heard.
Okay.
So.
Okay, good. Well, hi everybody. Welcome to the Maplewood Library's virtual summer reading event. Today we'll be going inside the Able Baker to learn some cookie decorating tips. I'm Jane, one of the librarians from the Maplewood Library, and I'm here to remind you that you can still read and earn prizes this summer. All the information is on our website, so go to www.maplewoodlibrary.org. Go to the Kids page, you'll click it, there's a tab at the top that says Kids, and go down to Summer Reading. Today we're speaking with Julie Pauley, the owner and the one of the creative masterminds of the Able Baker. Julie will be giving us some tips on decorating the perfect cookie. So you will be able to ask questions in the Q&A box, but wait until Julie asks you for some questions because we've got a lot of people attending today. But when you send in a question, maybe give us your name or your age, and that would be good. So let's get started. Oh, I should mention that we're doing a second virtual Able Baker event. It's going to be a behind the scenes tour of the bakery, and that will be on Wednesday, August 5th at 10 a.m. So please make sure you sign up for that. And right now it's coming to you live from the Able Baker in Maplewood, New Jersey. It's Julie. So take it away.
Hi, everybody. I usually ask everybody lots of questions, but this time I don't have that option. Can I make myself the biggest? Okay, there we go. So I can kind of see what's going on. You all, as Jane said, you can jot down questions in the Q&A section, and I'll try to stop periodically, and Jane can give me some questions and I'll answer. We'll also leave plenty of time at the end if people want to ask questions about the bakery specifically. And here I am. The bakery's closed today. If you're local, hopefully you've been by, but we're in downtown Maplewood Village, and we've been operating on a limited schedule. So we're 8 to 2 curbside only or delivery, Wednesday through Sunday. Starting next week, we're going to go to 7 days a week, which is a big shift for us, at least in this time. So we have a small team working in here of 10 people, which is going to grow a little bit when we add the extra 2 days. But in the past, we've had a team of 45, so it's much smaller. However, one of the, I guess, silver linings is I've got these days when the bakery is closed, and I get a chance to work with you all today. So I'm going to show you some of the tools that we use to decorate cookies. If you have been in the bakery in the past when we were open, sugar cookies are a big part of our business. It was something I used to do for friends and family years ago before I started baking professionally. And there's an excuse to decorate a cookie pretty much every month. There's a holiday, there's a theme, there's something going on in the world or in your hometown that you can decorate a cookie for. So we have hundreds of cookie decorators here, cookie cutters, and we have several cookie decorators who are all very skilled at doing the different designs you see. Just to give you an idea of some of the things we normally do, I have, these are the cookies that are going to be, this coming week, we're going to do Jersey fresh vegetables and fruits, in case there's any kids out there who don't like to eat their veggies. We also have strawberries. And then here's our home state. So these are the kind of things that we do. I'm going to do today 3 different cookies, shapes, that will help me illustrate a couple different techniques that we use here all the time. Before I start, I'm going to show you our tools. And Jane, you're going to interrupt me if I need to stop for questions, right? Just reverse. You guys can see my beautiful blue gloves now. And this is all our stuff. So what we work with when we decorate cookies is something called royal icing. And that's this big old tub right here. And we can color it with food colorings in a bunch of different shades. And each of them usually get a tub, as you see. And then all these things down here are pastry bags. So we fill each of the colors in pastry bags, and that's what we use for outlining and in some cases for filling in the cookies. There's different tip sizes. We have a cookie cutter back there. And this little guy is a favorite of every baker. It's called an offset spatula. They're very inexpensive actually. And if you're decorating cookies at home, most of this stuff you don't need. I mean, plastic containers you probably have. Pastry bags are very readily available online now, and you can use them even without the coupler that you see on ours. We just use the coupler and the tips because of the high volume that we make. But that's kind of what we're going to be using today. And gloves. You see gloves over there. So let me put you guys back up here and give me a second. And here I am. Okay. So let me just start with our first cookie. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn the down so you guys can see what I'm doing as I do it. So this is a watermelon cookie, and we have the cookie cutter right here. And you can get this online as well. I'm sure many of you have lots of different shapes at home, so all these techniques will work on the cookies that you want to bake. But this is a nice cookie to do at home because really all you need is something round. You know, anything that's got a round shape, you can use to cut out your cookie dough. And then just, if you want to have the little bite taken out of it, somewhere in the kitchen is something that's got a scalloped edge, whether it's a tiny little measuring spoon that you do cut, or if you have a biscuit cutter, any of those things would work as well. So when we bake cookies, we do many of them. We use a sugar cookie dough that is actually not too sweet. There are many great versions of sugar cookie dough recipes online. When we cook them, one of the things I always emphasize is you want to get them a little golden brown. When they're very pale and they're soft, they're actually easier to break. When they're firmer like this and have a little bit of crisp to them, I like the flavor better, but they also are less likely to break. And you don't want to spend all that time decorating a cookie and then have it bend in half after you've labored over it for so long. So here's our cookies. The first thing that we do that you can kind of see here, and I'm going to do with you, is we outline the cookie in the color that we want to use. So our main color in this cookie is going to be pink. So I have a bag, and I'm going to hope that there it is. Okay. I tend to be a two-handed, I use one hand as a guide to kind of keep my hand steady, and I squeeze with the other one. These have a clip on the top, but really all you need to do is twist the top so your icing doesn't go out the top, and you start. Now, you squeeze, and you're not squeezing like you're writing, you're actually having, I call it, it's like the icing is following along behind me. Now I didn't go all the way to the edge here for a reason. That's where we're gonna put our watermelon rind. So I'm just outlining the part that we're gonna do the pink in. So there you have an outline. And this stuff that I'm using is called royal icing. Royal icing is just basically egg whites and powdered sugar. Now we use pasteurized egg whites here, which you can buy in a carton at the grocery store. You can use your own egg whites at home, and that is certainly fine. The pasteurized ones are a little bit safer for commercial, reselling use. But most people flavor their royal icing, and we flavor ours with vanilla extract. Lemon is actually nice. Almond extract is another really nice one. So you can flavor it a couple different ways. So that's an outline. And once you do this outline, it has to set for a little bit so that you don't smear it when you're filling the cookie. I've colored, here's my lovely tub of pink icing. We colored several of them ahead of time. This, as you'll notice, is a little bit thinner than the icing that was in the bag, so that it'll be easier to spread. So when I spread, so I'm going to stir it up a little bit. and I'll flood a cookie, and we call this flooding. When you fill in the majority of the cookie, we call it flooding. So I'll take a little bit of my offset. This one, the icing had already set a little bit. And basically you just spread your icing to go to the edges of your outline. And you can even cover the very tip of your outline. And that'll be okay too, because then the outline kind of disappears after the cookie icing sets. This one could actually even be a little thinner. And you can kind of see some grooves in the icing. Those will start to flatten out as the icing sets. But I'm going to put a little tiny bit of water in this. Stay right there. I'll be right back. And so I made this a little bit lighter. There are tons of tutorials online on how to decorate cookies. Yeah, that's a little bit better. And some of the cookie decorators you find on Instagram, they describe their icings in terms of seconds, which is how long it takes for it to spread and even out. So 30 seconds would be a thicker icing that takes a longer amount of time. Oh, maybe I have that backwards. Whoops. But we tend to just kind of eyeball it and use a bit of water to fill it in. Okay, everybody with me so far? I don't get to see all your nodded heads, so it's not quite as fun. Jane, it's probably too early for questions, right?
Yes, that's correct. There are no questions right now, but
you guys are so good. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do our rind. When your icing is wet and you put another color next to it, it's easier for one to bleed into the other. So I would normally let this icing set for a little while before I put another color right next to it. So one of the things I can do, these on the left-hand side are already set, so I can work with these. But we can also do something where, in this case, I can do the rind, and I did it kind of thick, and I can go back in a little bit later and do the white in between. Since these two colors aren't touching, I can do that. Lots of people who try this for the first time think that they can't get their hands steady enough, but actually with practice, you get very good. It's just very different than writing with a pen or a pencil.
Julie, we do have a question from 11-year-old Sheridan. Would this be an okay time?
Yeah. Hi, Sheridan.
Sheridan asks, how long should you let the icing set?
It depends upon what you're going to do. So about 4 hours for this to set, and then to detail something on top of it. Now, a crust will develop usually within 15 minutes. So like this outline that I just did, I could go back and start filling that in 10 or 15 minutes and it would be fine. If I wanted to detail on top of it, like we're gonna put seeds up here, then that you could wait 3 to 4 hours. And then once you're finished, we let the cookie set 6 hours, and usually overnight is the best, because it'll develop a crust very quickly, but it takes a long time to dry all the way through. So it's kind of a paradox. For example, just to kind of illustrate this, when we're using colors in tubs, you want to put your lid back on right away, because this will start to develop a crust, and then you have little crunchy things in your icing, and you don't want that. So this you have to do within a minute, but this has to wait hours before it'll actually be set. Good question. So I'm going to do a couple more of these rims. What do you call them?
We have another question coming in from Lila, who's 7 years old. And Lila asks, how many cookies do you make per day?
Oh, that's a great question, Lila. Well, things are a little different now since we've you know, gone to contactless business, I guess. So people can pick up curbside or they can order for delivery, but we don't have customers coming in the bakery anymore. When we were inside the space and customers were coming in, we do about 600 of these a week outside of major holidays. On major holidays, it can be thousands. But so what does that come out to? I don't know. I think last week we sold about 200 of these. So many a day. So we might do a tray like this. In our past, we would, you know, decorate 6 to 10 trays of these every day. Right now we're doing less. That's a great question though. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to put the, I'm going to take some of these that were already done. Oops, see there, I got to, and I'm going to put some, you guys see me? Oh, you can see me. I'm going to put some seeds on here. So the way we do seeds, one of the hardest parts is like, how do you finish? Like people know how to get started, but how do you finish? You're going to squeeze a little and then you kind of let up. So I stop and then I kind of let a tail form. So you're kind of dragging and then lifting up, if that makes any sense. Now, it's perfectly fine to just do polka dots. That's another way to do it. Oops. Ah, see? This is why you have to let it dry. So here's one that's set. You can also just squeeze and lift up. Squeeze, let go, and lift up. So if you want to do seeds that way, and you can just do them all over. You can do that as well. So what do I have left to do? So the only thing I have left to do on these is to go back in with the white. I can probably do that on this one. So you know that white part of the watermelon that nobody likes to eat? You always want to eat the pink stuff and then leave that other part for somebody else. So
would this be a good time for some questions?
Yep.
Aiden, who's 13, asks, do you recommend a brand of food coloring for coloring royal icing?
Oh, like a brand of food coloring?
Correct.
Okay. There are many out there. The type is more important than the brand, I think. You want gel food coloring. So usually in the grocery store, they had those kind of, they're very liquidy and usually just has 4 primary colors and comes in a little box. Those aren't very good for icing, mostly because it just adds a lot of liquid to your icing and makes it runnier than maybe you want it to be at the beginning. So if you can find gel or paste food coloring and they're available online, then that's your better bet. There are some all natural ones. The colors are a little bit different, so I'll confess that we don't use those here because we kind of needed the variety of the broader spectrum of colors. But there's a lot of options if you just start off with the gel food coloring. Good question.
Now, there are quite a few questions here now. Do you want to wait till later to answer them, or would you like to answer?
No, I would love to hear
Okay.
questions. I think, unless you want me to keep going, I can just keep decorating while you guys are asking, and that way you can see and we'll talk.
We have a question from River, who's 6 years old, who asks, how long do you cook your sugar cookies?
Oh, so that's going to depend on a couple things. You're going to want to follow the directions in your recipe book. Most of them, you cook them at 350 in your oven at home. And I would follow the directions of the recipe to start with. But if you do a thicker cookie, it's going to take a little longer to cook. And you're also always going to want to eyeball it. So there's always 2 ways to check for doneness. One is time, which you're going to get from the recipe. And the other one is looks. So we want to see that golden edge, like you see here on the cookie. We want it to be kind of golden all the way around. We don't want it to be dark all the way across. So look for that. And then in terms of thickness, we do, what do we do? I think about 1/3 of an inch. You can go thinner. They're a little bit more fragile then. If you go really thick, they end up being more of a chewy cookie than the, the sugar cookies that you're used to seeing. That's a good question. What else?
Well, Lila wants to know who comes up with the ideas for the cookies.
That's a group effort. There's a bunch of us who do that. And we look at a couple things. We looked at holidays first. So we do Christmas and Hanukkah. We do Halloween is a really big one. Thanksgiving. There's St. Patrick's Day. Valentines is huge. Mother's Day, Father's Day. So we do that first, and then we come up with a lot of themes. And there's several different things you can do for dads. And then beyond that, we look at big events. So the Oscars are a popular one, National Donut Day, which we actually missed this year. So those kind of things next. And then, when we first came back into the bakery at the end of May, we made cookies that reminded people to wear their masks. So sometimes you can do public service announcements. And we can also do things like sports. So, next week we couldn't think of a big event going on, so we thought it'd be fun to highlight some summer fruits and veggies. Any others?
Yes, Beatrice, who's age 8, asks, what's your favorite cookie cutter shape?
Gosh, that's hard to say. I find that sometimes the simplest cutters are the best, and just a beautiful heart in one color is gorgeous. And I have a lot of fun doing those. Although I've also gone the other direction, and I bought a great big mixing, it looks like a KitchenAid mixer cutter, and it's very complicated to decorate, but I waited a long time for that cutter, and when I got it, I was pretty excited. So who else?
Well, let's see. Charlie, who is 5 years old but is turning 6 on Friday, asks, do you get to eat the broken cookies?
We do, yes. And we hope that we don't break them because they're rather expensive to make. If you're kind of noticing, the real cost is in all of the work. So all of this time we take to decorate it, and even before this, you have to make all those colors and icings and cookie dough. So yes, I have to tell you, I've had these many times before though, so I'm not as tempted perhaps as you might be at home. You could always break one on purpose if you really wanted to get a taste, right?
We have some more questions. Is this okay to do it, or do you want to say?
Yeah. Unless you tell me you want me to move on. I'm going to fill in the little white here, and then I'll move on to another cookie. But
well, that will answer Elliot's question, who's 7, of whether you're going to cover them with icing or leave some cookie showing.
This one, what we want to end up with is something like this. So it's all covered in icing. So, but there are designs you can make where you purposely leave some of the cookie showing. And I don't know if I have one of those today. I don't think I do. I'm going to go ahead and fill this one in with white, and then we can move on to another cutter and maybe get some other questions and comments going. So see that there's just enough of a crust on the green that I can go along with the white. And you don't have to be perfect, but just doing that outline and reining in your icing will make you a pro from the get-go. Okay, so let me go on to another cookie. And this one is a shell. So this is a seashell. It's also the cookie cutter we use for turkeys at Thanksgiving. So if you can imagine, this is the feathers, and the turkey's head is right here with this little wattle and a speeder down at the bottom. So there are a ton of cookie cutter shapes that work for a lot of different cookies. And I always find that that's really fun. We have one that looks like a bulldog, and when you turn it upside down, it's a frog. There's a bunch of those. But this is the finished cookie. So that's a seashell. And I wanted to show you guys this one because it illustrates a really fun technique that everybody likes to do. So you do your outline, as I did a few of these in advance so I could show you. So you do your outline first, and this one has had time to set. And I'm going to get my icing. And we're going to fill it. The icing is already kind of runny. So just like before, I'm going to run all the way to the edges. You want to make sure none of the cookie is showing underneath. Like, you don't want to be too thin. Now, if you're too heavy-handed and you put too much icing on, don't panic. You can always just scrape it off. You know, you can pick up a little bit with your knife at home or whatever. But this is about right. So what we do to get this beautiful swirl technique is we're going to take a color. What do you guys want? Pink, orange? Let's do pink. I'm going to take a color. Can you see? I think everyone can see, right? Here, I'll do this. And I'm going to draw just curves. So you set down, you squeeze, lift off at the end. You kind of touch down and let go, if that makes sense. And so what you do next is if you have a toothpick at home, if you don't have a toothpick, the tip of a knife works as well, but you're just going to drag through your icing, and that's what's going to make those lovely little designs. We use this on Christmas ornaments, Valentines hearts, a lot of different designs. Now you see a little bit of the cookie there, but after a minute or so, it's going to even out. And if it's not perfect, like mine wasn't perfect right here because I'm angling the whole time, but any kind of design I think looks terrific with this technique. You can also, we use this for spider webs too. If you start with a white cookie and you just draw lines out in rings, you can get a spider web this way. Let me show you another idea. So you can also do a back and forth technique, which makes a little bit less sense on a shell, but you can go this way and then back. And I can't angle this much because I'm going to lose my icing. So you go down, and then you go up, down, and up. So you get kind of a zigzaggy pattern. Any questions so far?
Yes, we do have quite a few questions. I can hit some of them. Lydia, who's 5 years old, asks, do you ever make the cookie dough different flavors?
We do not. We found that this works best for us, but you can take your same cookie dough and instead of using, most of them use vanilla in the recipe, but you could also switch up the extract and do almond or hazelnut. You can make a chocolate cookie, sugar cookie. That usually includes cocoa in the recipe and cut out chocolate ones, and those are really nice. Those are the most common ones that I've seen. Lemon might be another nice one.
We have a question of, do you make vegan cookies?
We do not. We do make some things at the bakery that are dairy-free, and we make some things that are egg-free, but we don't make anything that's both. So most of our items do have butter in, and this one has butter, sugar, eggs, flour, vanilla, and salt. That's it. We do some gluten-free items, many actually. We have a gluten-free, dairy-free, banana bread is popular, but nothing vegan. But you could be the first one to make it.
Now we got a question from Madeline, who's 11. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Who asks, have you ever had to throw away a whole batch of cookies?
Yes, and it's really sad, but we have. If someone makes a mistake with the recipe, which happened last December, and someone put in too much sugar and we couldn't figure out what was wrong. So we baked off 14 trays of cookies and we had to throw every single one away. Once I forgot all the cookies in the oven and I had 6 trays of these and I had to throw all those away. So yes. Who else?
Eloise, who's 7.5, asks, have you ever wanted to make your own cookie cutter?
Yes, well, actually we did. If you've seen the logo, it's on our window. It's a little, it's a very specific outline of a cupcake. And we had that turned into a cookie cutter, a copper cookie cutter like this. And I might be able to show you before the end of the thing. You can make custom cookie cutters. There's, especially with 3D printing now, there's tons of options. But even the nice copper ones can be done. That's a great question. What else?
We have a question of what's the most popular holiday for cookies?
Probably the winter Christmas holidays. That month is probably our biggest cookie month.
And then Felicia, who's an adult, asks, what's your favorite cookie you've ever made?
Like a design or different cookie recipes?
Well,
Well, so
sure.
Design. I love doing snowflakes in the winter, and I love doing hearts at Valentines because we can do a bunch of different designs. So, and I'm really proud of that KitchenAid mixer cookie I did, which was on Instagram a couple of years ago.
Somebody says, I love the puns on your Valentine cookies.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we do some anti-Valentines and some funny ones. And actually, I do have a cookie. I have one more cookie I can show you guys, and I'll show you how to, I'll write on a cookie. So the other cookie, while we were talking, I'll just illustrate is, someone asked about, do you always fill it all in? You can do a design on a cookie without having to fill the whole thing up with icing. Some people actually don't like the icing, and every once in a while ask us if they could just buy a cookie without the icing on it. This is one way to do something like that. So I'm going to move on and move these over and show you. So this is a plaque, which I wrote, wear your mask on. I love plaques, and you can use any shape and turn it into a plaque, a circle, a square. You probably have something at home you can use for cutting out, but then there's also many shapes that are sold of cookie cutters in beautiful designs. These are lovely for weddings. People put their names on it. We use it for some of those silly Valentines and lots of other occasions. So when you're writing on a cookie, it's important that your icing be really thick in your bag. So the runnier icing is going to kind of dilute and spread out and make your letters not look so great. So I don't think I can do this one lifting, so you guys are going to have to see me do it upside down. But you just want to be neat, and you can do cursive or print. You can do upper, lowercase. I like doing a mix sometimes. And so you could do something like this. Wear your mask. Jane, do you have any questions while I'm drawing here?
Just a question from the shell. Lila wants to know how do you make the shell pattern, and also wondered if you made it mermaids to go with the shells.
We do mermaids. I don't have mermaids here for you today, but if you go back and look on our Instagram, we do those in the summertime, and they're really pretty. So we do, there's a whole bunch of cutters we have for summertime that include that. So I guess I could take, if somebody has something they want me to write on a cookie, I could probably do it for them right now, if that would be fun. And if anybody has any other questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them. got, when we do plaques, sometimes we outline them in the same color, sometimes in a different color. Try pink, huh? This could just be hello.
We do have two questions. One is,
Yes.
do you do custom cookies for orders?
Mm-hmm. So we do, but we don't right now. We have just 4 people in the kitchen right now instead of our usual larger crew. So we're not able to do custom orders, but custom designs can be a whole lot of fun. So I'll kind of move this up for a second. I feel like I'm going to see you guys now, but you'll just see me. So we do a lot of custom work, or we have in the past, for weddings, for baby showers, birthday parties. So if you're doing a Star Wars birthday and you want Star Wars cookie cutters to go with it, we do all that. We just can't do it right now.
Now, we have 2 more questions. Aiden, who's 13, asks, what's the most detailed cookie you decorate and how long does it take?
Ooh, you guys really have some good stumpers. We do have some cookies. Actually, it's probably a holiday cookie also. We do little elves, anything where like a person with a lot of different garments is an example of something that would take a lot of time. Or like Santa Claus, we have to cover him in red, but only the parts that are his suit. And then you have to wait for it to dry to put on the belt. And then you have to wait for the belt to dry to put on the buckle. And then you have to wait for all of that to dry before you can do the fluffy stuff on his hat, you know, like the fur trim. We use sugar sprinkles on that to get that effect. Which actually, I have an assistant here who might be able to get me some sparkling sugar so I could show you guys how that looks on a cookie. Is that a good answer? I would say the elf.
That's a great answer, and it sounds complicated. Maxie, who's 8, asks, how many cookie cutters do you have in total?
Here, 300, maybe 400, I think is probably a good number.
And Penny, who's 4 years old, asks, do you have a bow tie cutter? Because we do, and it's rusted.
Ah, I do have a bow tie cutter, and it's, you know, it's kind of a smallish one, not that big, but you can always get another one. And those are, sometimes they're sold in sets, like with a little tie and a little hat. So that sounds very cute though. And you can do lots of different designs on that. Polka dots, anything.
Lila asks if you have a book cookie.
If I have a what cookie? I just missed that.
Oh, sorry.
Word.
A book themed cookie.
We do. We've done actually some library events in years past where we used that cookie cutter, and it's it looks like a book cover, and you can see the pages on the side. But you could use a square probably and do a book cover yourself too.
And 2 more questions came in. Another from Madeline asking, did you ever have people volunteer to work in the kitchen? If so, how old do you have to be?
We do have some internship. We will take an intern from a culinary school. It's part of their education requirements and credits, and we'll work with, and we found some great people to work here in the kitchen permanently. But we don't have anyone volunteering per se. It's too small a space is the biggest problem. So your best bet actually is to come back in August when we do the virtual tour and you can get to see what's behind the scenes. But we've not been able to do volunteers in the way you're describing.
And Mariana, who's 9.5, asks, how many cookies do you normally make in a year?
Oh, I don't know. What do you think, Thomas? My husband is over there doing work in the corner. How many cookies do we make in a year? 10,000? 50,000? 50,000. We're going to guess 50,000. And you know what? I'm going to get back to you on that because that's a good question. Okay. What else can I show you? I was going to show you sugar sprinkles. This is kind of just a fun thing to do. If you're drawing, let's say, an outline on a cookie and you just want to have a little sparkle to it, you put the icing on wet, and remember the base icing is dry by now. And I can add some sugar to this. Well, I'm going to kind of cheat and do it right on the tray. So I drew an outline. So this outline is nice and wet. I'm going to move my cookies out of the way, and I can, normally I have something to catch it, but I don't right now. Shake off the color, and then you have kind of a nice glitter. I don't know if you guys can see that. So I think that kind of concludes my demonstration pieces. If there are questions everybody has about the bakery, or I can tell you anything else about us, I'd love to do that. I'll just wait for Jane to tell me what I should say.
Okay, we have a question from Aiden, who's 13, who asks, can you recommend a culinary school for an aspiring pastry chef?
Well, we're lucky in this neck of the world to be really close to several of them. It depends. If you are doing a full-on, multi-year diploma program, the Culinary Institute of America in Hudson, Hyde Park, is fabulous, and Johnson and Wales, which is farther north. We've had many graduates from Johnson and Wales here. And then in New York City, actually, there's several smaller schools that have classes that you could take. I think most of those have kind of been suspended right now, but you can do it, piecemeal, or you can do a 6-month pastry program at Institute of Culinary Education, which is ICE. They're in New York City. We've had many people take classes there, and they're very good. So those are a few. Any others?
No questions right now, but would you like to hold up some of the cookies that you showed us in the beginning that you are selling this week?
Yes. So here is strawberry. So now that you guys have gotten your tutorial, we made the red first, and after the red dried, we did these little tiny yellow dots, and then after that dried, we put on the stem on top and filled it in. Tomato. This one's great. These were all made by Kirsten. She's probably our lead cookie decorator these days. Here are corn. Now the corn is fun because you do the white, the yellow, and then we put these tiny little, so we do sugary topping on the yellow, and then we sprinkle beads on it too, a couple different sizes of beads, and these are all edible.
One of the grown-ups asks, how do you get the shine in the royal icing?
It's shiny when you first do it, and then it fades. So this one is wet, so it's very shiny, but when it dries, this is even just an hour later, you can notice that it's lost some of its sheen. I think it's just naturally that way because of the egg whites. But I often know when I'm seeing a shiny cookie online that they probably just decorated that one or fairly recently.
Maxie, who's 8, asks, how can we order cookies, and can we get your address, please?
So we do have a website. We do a limited number of designs each week. So these guys, the fruits and veggie ones, are the ones that will be up this week. I might have a couple other designs as well. I think the watermelon will make it up there. And those you can order individually from theablebaker.com or order.theablebaker.com. And our address is on our website. We're in Maplewood Village. You just can't come in right now, unfortunately. So you'd have to kind of peek in from the outside.
A question came in that says, how do you determine the price of the cookies?
A lot of it is calculating the first ingredients and then the amount of time that it takes to do them. And we price them to make it easier. We price them by size. So a larger cookie is more expensive than a medium cookie, and so on. And I think we stay competitive with other people who do similar design.
We have two more questions. One is, how big is the bakery? And the other is, how long has the bakery been around?
Okay. So the bakery is just under 1,200 square feet. Sorry, someone's spraying in the background. We're getting a little work done. So if you can't hear me, just let me know. So we're a little under 1,200 square feet. We're pretty small. When we first opened, we were only 600 square feet. And then we doubled our space about 4 years ago when our neighbor decided to change locations. So we were able to expand. And we opened here October 2011. We started as a web-based business first, though. I rented kitchen space and baked and delivered locally. And that started in 2009. So we're a little over 10 years old.
Well, happy
Thank
10th
you for
birthday. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
And I don't see any other questions right now.
Okay. Well, thank you all for joining. And I had fun. Jane, this was great. Can we do this again?
Yes, and we are doing this again Wednesday, August 5th at 10 o'clock. We're going to have a backstage tour or a behind the scenes tour of the bakery.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope
It'll be
everyone
fun.
will join us.
Yes, and we'll have the whole team here so you guys can see pies being made and cookies and a little bit of cookie decorating. We'll do cakes as well, and you can see the big mixers and the rolling pins, and it'll be fun. So
now we do have some people saying thank you, but we also have the questions, do you share any of your recipes or are they top secret?
Oh, well, we don't share recipes at this time. Recipes kind of come from all over. Some of them are definitely adapted from things. And I think, like a lot of professionals, we sometimes do what you do at home, and you Google something and you try out a recipe, and then we'll tweak it to get exactly the flavor or the texture that we want. So some of them are recipes that I've been doing for a really long time. Some are things that other bakers have brought with them that was their tried and true recipe. So they really come from all over.
And Madeline asks, do you make anything other than cookies? I wonder this because your logo is a cupcake.
We do make cupcakes, and we do cakes, we do pies. Scones are actually our best-selling item, believe it or not, and we do a really popular banana bread. And coffee. We sell coffee.
Well, thank you very much. We miss being in there, and we look forward to coming in and visiting you soon.
Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. Thanks, Jane.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Have a good night. Stay.